Hi, I'm Joe Musgrove with Pulaski County Information Systems, and today I'm going to be taking you through the tutorial on how to use the HR Docuware system. Now, if you haven't gone through the HR status change form tutorial yet, go ahead and stop this video because that's the first one that you want to watch. That's going to take you through the steps of filling out the form, inserting attachments if you want to include attachments when you're submitting your status change form, as well as the submission process. And it's the first step in a two-step process. So you've received an email, and in the email will be links to these training sessions, and there'll also be a link to the HR Docuware system in the HR status change form. Now, what I've done to make it a little bit easier for me to access when I want to use it is I've just taken the links and I've created two shortcuts on my desktop. The status change form and the HR Docuware system, which we're going to be using in this tutorial. Now it's web-based, so you could certainly, using the links, is create favorites in your browser if you wanted to do that. You could create shortcuts in your desktop and name them, something that's descriptive to you. Or you could do both. It's really the easiest way that you want to do as far as accessing the Docuware system and the status change form. So to get started, I'm going to move the mouse over my shortcut to the HR Docuware system. I'm going to double left click. And so we can see this better, I'm going to come over here to my maximize button and I'll left click on maximize, and this blows up the screen full size here. Now the first thing you notice is unlike accessing the forms, the Docuware system you have to have a username and password. And let's take a look at the three fields here as we're filling these out. Well, the first one's already filled out for you by default, and that's going to be your organization. And it's called Pulaski County Human Resources. Now, let's say for some reason that wasn't inserted for you when you open this up, or it happens. Let's say that you accidentally maybe highlighted and deleted something up here. You can retype that. The thing to remember is just to capitalize the first letters in Pulaski County Human Resources. All right. Username is our next field. I'm going to left click here. And the way that was set up for you is going to be the first letter of your first name and your last name. And in my case, J. Musgrove. Now, you notice I've been clicking to get to each field here. Again, this is just like any internet form. You can certainly use your tab key. So as you see here, I can tab down through my fields or hold down the shift key and tab up. So in this case, I'm going to tab down to password, and I'll go ahead and put in my password. All right. Now, before selecting login, three other things I want to bring to your attention. One is you have a link here that's called Forgot Your Password. And basically what that does, if you've forgotten your password, you can click on there. It starts a series where it'll take you through steps of resetting your password. You have a checkbox next to an area called Keep Me Logged In. And then you have another checkbox next to an area here that says Open Client New Window. Now, Keep Me Logged In, you never want to select that. And it does just what it says it's going to do. It will keep you logged in. Now, it might be inconvenient to have to put in a username and password each time, but it's actually, it's the best way to do it because it protects you and also protects the data in the Docuware system. And that's not only within Docuware. That's if anytime you're using a system that requires a username or password, you don't want to select or choose things such as keep me logged in or options to remember a password or anything like that. The second checkbox here, Open Client New Window, basically what that does is if I select it and then click on Login, what that will do is when the Docuware system opens up, it'll put it in a second browser window. If that's what you want, that's fine. I don't want it in this case, so I'm going to deselect that. So again, organization's in there, my username, my password. Make sure this does not have a checkbox in there. Keep me logged in. And again, the Open Client New Window is up to you. So okay, so I'm good to go. So I'm going to move my mouse to where it says Log In, and I'm going to left click. And we'll give it a few seconds to access the system. So it's a web-based system, a cloud-based system, by the way. And now I've actually accessed the system several times, and I've opened up windows and kept them open by default. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and close these out because I want to show you how to access these different areas if they're not already open for you. Okay. So what I've done here is kind of gotten back to just a clean slate. On the right side is an area where we'll actually view the status change forms and any attachments that we might have. On the left side here, the two options that we're going to use is our processing task list. And by the way, you see in mine, it says central data processing task list. Yours will be named for the department that you work in. And that's the first thing that I want to open here. So I'm going to come up here, move the mouse where it says central data processing, and I'm going to left click. Now, the second thing I'm going to do is open up a second window in a split pane configuration. So you notice here that as I move the mouse, and this is most areas within a Docuware system, if I move and hover over a button, say in this example, a description comes up, tells me what it is. And this will help you too as you start using the system. So show split pane, so I'm going to left click on that. Now, the third thing that I want to do is open up my toolbar menu. So I'm going to come up here in this area, and I'm going to move the mouse over to this drop-down button, and I'm going to left-click, which opens up my toolbars, which has tools, display, stamps, and such. And we'll be going through a few of these in the approval process. Now, this screen up here is going to be used to view the status change forms that have been submitted but have not been approved by you yet. Again, the only thing that we've done here is we've gone out to the forum in the first tutorial and we've submitted a status change form, but we still need to approve this before sending it on its way to HR through the workflow process. So that's where we view this here. And I've got 3 status change forms out here right now. All right. Now to open these up to view them, all I would need to do is left click on the one that I wanted to open, and you notice that it highlights in a dark gray color, and then I'm going to double left click. Now, if you notice here on the right, this is your viewing pane, and this opens up the status change form that we've selected here. You probably noticed this looks pretty familiar to the paper form. One of the reasons that it was set up in this format is just familiarity. But this is not paper. This is the digital form that you have submitted, and the formatting comes out to where it looks like the paper form. Now, we're going to move up here to 3 areas I want to show you. And you're going to use these quite a bit. The first one, if we move our mouse over to this area, you notice in this arrow it says next document. Okay. In this case, it's our status change form. And so this area here, these 2 buttons allows you to scroll through the status change form. So in this example, we have the first one selected and we have it open. So I can come up here, I can hit the button, and you notice our description comes up as I hover over the button, next document. I'm going to left click. Now you notice another status change form opens up, and if you come over here to the processing task list, you see it's moved to the next one in the series here. So basically what you're doing here is you're scrolling through the status change forms that you have in this area. And we can also go back the other way too. So I can come over here to the button that says previous document, and we can go up to the first one that we're using here. So just remember, in this area, this will take you back and forth and bring up different status change forms. Now, we can also come over here and double left click, and it does the same thing. And that's one of the nice things about this system is there could be several ways to do one thing, and it's really designed on what you find is the easiest way to do it. So again, you can scroll through, or you can certainly come over here and manually select the status change forms. Now, where I can see this would be useful is, let's say we had more than 3, for example, and you didn't want to scroll down through all of these. Well, it might be easier to come over here and select the different status change forms. But again, it's up to you. Now, if we move over to this area here, what you're going to see if I move the mouse over the number 2 here, this is going to say pages within a file. Now, what this is the pages, not attachments, but the actual status change form pages. In this electronic version, by default, there's 2. There's the main one that we see here. And if I move my mouse to where it says next page, you say 1 of 2, I'm going to left click, it's going to take me to the next page within the status change form that I've selected. Now, what we've done here is a page has been added where approval stamps can be added as the status change form goes through the workflow process, and then you have an area here for annotations, which is for human resources. So this is something you would not need to use. The stamps, as we'll see later, is the final approval process. This is an area where you'll actually place a stamp, which starts the process of the form being submitted to HR on its route going through the workflow process. For right now, we'll see that a little bit later. So for right now, just remember this area here, and you see previous page, next page, we see your titles come up. This just takes you through the 2 default pages of the status change form that you have selected. And remember, the one you have selected will be grayed out over here. All right, it'll be like a dark gray color. This area here is files. You'll see I'll move my mouse back to the left a little bit. It says files within the document. This is going to show you the attachments on the specific status change form that you're working in, you have highlighted. Now, on this particular one, I have 1 attachment, but it counts this sheet, the Pulaski County Employee Status Change Form, is one of the sheets. So, for example, 1 of 2, which means I have 1 attachment. If I had 2 attachments, let's say as an example, it would be 1 of 3, because again, to avoid confusion, it counts this as a page here. But to see the attachment, what I can do is come up here. Right now, it has next file, so I'll left click on next file. And that's going to bring up, it's going to open up the attachment. Now, if you watch the first tutorial that I did on filling out the Docuware forms, the HR Docuware forms, I did a status change form for a new employee, and I attached a document. And in the tutorial, I called it a salary justification letter. And obviously, in the exercise, I didn't write out a salary justification letter. I just created a document, typed a few words in the document just for demo purposes. But what the point is here I'm trying to make is this actually shows you what's in the attachment. It opens up the attachment. So if it had been an actual, in my example, a salary justification letter, it would open up the document, you would see the full letter, and that's really with any attachment. The reason it's designed like this is as you're reviewing the attachments, it's not a 2-step process. So in other words, you're not going to have an icon for each attachment and have to individually go through and open up those icons. It does that for you, and it just makes it easier to scroll through and view the attachments. In this case, you know, it's just a test document, there's a few words in here, but if you can imagine you had several attachments and you needed to review them, a lot easier to scroll through than have to go through and hit an individual icon for each one. So a quick review, this area here takes you through the actual status change forms that are in this section, and of course you can also double left click on either of these and it does the same thing. This middle area here will actually let you scroll through the 2 pages, and right now we just have 2 by default of the status change form, which is the status change form itself, and then the stamp page, which we'll cover a little bit later when we're ready to submit status change form into the next process. And then finally, we have an area here where you can view attachments. And by the way, if you don't have an attachment with a status change form, you wouldn't have this option here. There wouldn't be anything to scroll through. All right. So I've gone through, and I've reviewed my attachments. I've reviewed the status change form. Everything looks pretty good here. So the first thing that I want to do is add a signature to this page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, and you have a stamp symbol here. And if I left click on the drop down arrow, you're going to have my signature stamp. And in your case, what you're logged in, your username you're logged in under will have your username here, and your signature will come up. That's the signature you submitted to HR last week. And then you have two other stamps here, which are the approvals. All right, right now we're going to go ahead and just submit a signature stamp. Now, I can also come over here to my toolbar, just another area I can access the stamps if I want to. It doesn't really matter. I'll go back over to this one. And for my signature, what I'm going to do is I've scrolled down where I can actually see the area where I'm going to place my signature. It's easy to get to. And I'm going to left click on my drop down arrow, and I'm going to come down here where I have my signature stamp. Now, this is going to be a little bit different than probably what you're used to. In most programs that you've used, especially Windows programs, if you want to drag and drop something, usually what you do is you highlight it, hold down the left mouse button, and while holding down the left mouse button, you drag it, let go of the button, and it drops it into place. Docuware is a little bit different. So all you do is, in this case, I'll move over to my signature stamp, and I'm just going to left click. I'm not going to hold that down. I'm just going to left click, let go of the left mouse button, and then I'm going to start moving the mouse down toward where I need to put that signature. So you notice signature is moving around the page here. I do not have a button to press on my mouse right now. I just clicked it once, grabbed it. I'm going to move it down here, and it doesn't have to be exact. You just kind of get it close. And once I'm in the area where I want to drop that signature, I'm just going to left click one more time, and that's it. So it is now, you see the symbol here means it's saving it to the document. So now I've dropped in a signature. Now, I've got the signature in there, so now what I have to do to send this on its way is do an official approval using a stamp. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to remember the middle area. That's going to take us to the default pages within a status change form. I'm going to left click on the arrow that says next page. I'm going to scroll up here a little bit so you can see this better. Now, the way this works is the approval stamps, and we drop an approval stamp in the same way we just did the signature. Now, with the approval stamps, when you drop it in there, the system takes it from there, and it will automatically send up the status change form for you. And in other words, there is no submit button. So as we go through this process, we're not going to grab the stamp, drop it in the stamp area, and then go to submit. Which is another, something a little bit different in Docuware that you might find in other programs, because in most programs you probably use, you have a submit button. Here, by dropping that stamp, it does the process for you. So what we're going to do, in this case, I'm going to come over here. Remember, I have a stamp symbol here. I can also use my stamp area here in the toolbar. So if you've went through my first tutorial, filling out status change form, the very first thing that you had to decide on is if the status change form was being created for a leave decision or a submit employee decision. And so the same thing here. You have two stamps, and one is submit employment decision and the other is submit leave decision. So in this case, this is going to be a new hire. So I'll move my mouse over to the stamp that says submit employment decision. And just like we did a few seconds ago on the signature, I'm not going to hold the mouse button down and drag. I'm just going to move it above the stamp. I'm going to left click, and I'll start moving my mouse over to the right. And again, you can use any stamp area. What I'm going to do here is probably I'll use the first one here. We'll kind of keep it going in sequential order. And again, I'm not holding down a mouse button. I've just left click. I'm dragging an area. It doesn't have to be exact. As long as it's within the rectangle here, you're okay. Now, when I left click and I put the stamp in here, what's going to happen is it will place the stamp on the status change form, but it also will automatically submit it to HR. So once I left click, once that stamp's in there, that's signifying that you have approved it and you're sending it on its way. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to left click, give it a few seconds. You see a symbol comes up, says saving document, and it's on its way. Now, you notice if we go back over here, that where we had 3, now we have 2, all right? What has happened is you've put that stamp in there. That's your official approval, and your official permission for it to go on its way. And once that document's out of there, then it will remove it from your task list, and you're left with the status change forms that you have not submitted yet, all right? Now, let's say if it's a case where you realize that, oh, I needed to add an attachment. I realize there's some wrong information on there. What do I do? I've already put my stamp on there and it's on its way. Well, the first thing you want to do is just make a courtesy call to HR. And just let them know, hey, I've submitted a status change form. I realize it has, the wrong address on there. What they'll do is they'll just go ahead and they'll reject the form that you've submitted, and no harm done. And then what you would do is just go out to the status change form and fill out another one and submit it. But again, that courtesy call to HR is always good to know, because that just alerts them, and avoids confusion of 2 status change forms maybe coming in for the same employee. So it's always a good thing. But again, it's the way the system works too, that if you submit it and you realize that something needs to be changed, and of course mistakes will probably be made as you first use this, no harm done. All you have to do is basically have that rejected and just fill out another one, and you're good to go here. So what we've done, we've gone through, we've picked a status change form that's been submitted, we've reviewed it, put our signature there, we've stamped it, we've sent it on its way. Now let's say that we have a status change form, and in the process of filling out the form, the person or maybe I have inserted an attachment or several attachments and submitted the form. So then we realize we need to add another attachment to it. Well, again, the easiest way to do it, the way I recommend, is certainly in the form. However, you can still do that within the Docuware system. And that's going to happen. There will be some times when a form is submitted and you realize that you still need to attach additional things to it. So you're okay here. So this is why we've opened up this window down here. So what I'm going to do is show you how to import a document, in this case, that and it can be any, as long as it's digital, it can be really anything, but in this case a document, how to import it into the system, how to select the status change form that you want to include the attachment, and again, it won't affect anything, the other attachments that you have you've already submitted when the form is filled out. It doesn't affect them. You're just kind of adding here, and then attaching it to that particular status change form. Very easy to do. What we're going to do is we're going to come down here to where we see a button that says import. I'm going to left click. Now, in my case, my default window opens up to my desktop window. And again, that might be different for your computer. It just depends on how you have your PC set up. Yours might open up to a default folder, for example, on your network where you normally keep documents. But it doesn't really matter because you're in the Windows system, so you can choose different drives, or you can do a search, or you can get to the area where you normally keep the document. In my case, for this exercise, I've kept it easy. The document that I want to insert is actually on my desktop. In this case, I've just called it Employee Document 2. So very easy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here, I'm going to left click, I'm going to come over here, I'm going to left click on Open. I'm going to give it just a few seconds. Now you notice that document now appears in this area of the Docuware system. All right. So all I've done at this stage is it's not attached yet. All I've done is I've imported it. So it gives me the type, the name of the document created on, and so on and so forth here. And that's going to help you out because you might have several things that you've imported in and maybe have not used them yet. And you import something else and that's the one that you want to use, or maybe something else. So in other words, it just kind of helps you go through and identify and make sure that you're choosing the right attachment to put on your status change form here. All right. So in this case, I have one. We're keeping it easy. So now what I want to do is find the status change form that I want to attach this to. So this is the one. Keep it simple. We'll say, okay, well, this is the one here. I recognize the address and I need to attach this document to the status change form. So very easy. So the first thing I'm going to do is highlight the status change form that I want to attach the document to. You notice again a dark gray color. I'm going to right click and then I'm going to come down here and you'll see a little paper clip symbol and it's called clip. Now again, that's what Docuware calls, that's their term for attach. It's the same thing. They call it clip, but what you're doing here is you're attaching a file. So I'm going to left click on clip. All right. Now basically what I've done is I've told the status change form, hey, be prepared. I'm fixing to attach something. So there's one more process that we've got to do. So what I'm going to do is come down here. I'm going to move the mouse over to the document that I want to clip, or as far as Docuware speak, attach, it's the same thing. I'm going to hold down my left mouse button while holding down my left mouse button. Okay, this is going to be the standard way of doing it, probably what you're used to. Not like the signatures where you left click and then let go. We're going to hold down the left mouse button in this case. I'm going to drag the document. And by the way, I can put it ahead of the document, or I can put it behind the document. If you want it, the status change form is the first thing that's seen by HR. Make sure that you're putting it to the right of it. So I've still holding down my left mouse button. I've moved it to the area. I'm going to let go. All right. So at this stage, I could, if I had another document, I can go ahead and do the same steps where I left click to highlight it, hold down the left mouse button, drag it up into the next area to drop it in. Again, I can, depending on what order you want it in, you can drop it in different areas here. In this example, I just have the one document. So there's one step left I have to do, and that's to hit the clip button up here. So I'm going to move the mouse where it says clip. I'm going to left click on clip. And give it a few seconds. It'll tell you successfully clipped. And you notice the form, or excuse me, the document that I imported in this example is gone, because basically it's now attached to the status change form. And that's a good way of knowing too, like say if you have, you're not sure, and again, as you first use this, you're going to be kind of getting used to this. If you think you've attached and clipped it, but you still see, the document or whatever file that you intended to attach, if it's still showing down here, that means it did not get attached. Okay, so you might want to go back and start the process over again. Okay, now basically all I've done here is within the Docuware system is I've just clipped or attached a file. Okay, now I've not submitted this document. I've not put or the status change form. I've not put a stamp on it, sent it on its way. And the reason I have not done that yet is I want to show you a little, or kind of give you a little tip, especially as you're kind of getting used to the system. Is what happens, and again, as with a new system, you're going to have this, is maybe there's a little bit of confusion. You're not sure if you've attached, what you've attached to maybe a status change form. You're just in an area where it's like, okay, I think I just need to start over. I need to get rid of the status change form and then go back out and resubmit it because it's, you know, I've got several here. Things are getting a little bit confused, still trying to get used to the system as an example. Easy to do. As long as you have not placed that stamp in the stamp area, which sends the status change form on its way, you always have the option of coming up here, and let's say I want to get rid of the status change form. There's an issue with it. It's going to be easier to start over. All you have to do is right click, come down here and left click on delete. It'll ask you if you're sure. You say yes, and it's gone. And then what you can do is go back out, fill out another status change form and submit it. And again, you don't have to do that. Again, that's just an extra, you know, sort of an, I guess what you call extra of a safety step, just in case you're in a situation where you just kind of, well, we kind of need to start over here. That's the case, nothing's been submitted, you don't have to call HR, no big deal. But like I was saying before, certainly if you've submitted something, you've put the stamp on there, and you realize there's mistakes or you need to get it back or something, again, very easy to do. Just pick up the phone, notify HR, they can reject the status change form that you submitted, and you just go back out to the form and you fill out another one, you start over. So again, no big deal. Now the last thing I want to show you is the area where you go in and you can change your password. Now if for those that have taken the class, you should have been shown how to go in and change your default password and instructed to use a hardened password. All right. Now if you haven't done that yet or you've forgotten, what you would do is you would come up here to this area and you would hit your drop down and you would come down to my profile, you would left click. Now it's going to bring up your profile screen, and what you would do from here is you'd come down to the password area and it says please click here to change your passwords. I'm going to left click on that. Give it just a second. All right. The screen comes up, and what it does is it will ask you for your old password, so I'm going to put that in there. I can left click or I can just tab down to the next area here, the next field, which is a new password. Now, what we really encourage people to do, and by the way, it is now county policy, is to use a hardened password. And basically, a hardened password is just the criteria that makes the password a little bit harder for somebody to guess. And three things you want. One is minimum of 8 characters. Certainly the longer the password, the better, but at the same time too, you have to be realistic. But it is minimum 8 characters, so you have to have at least 8. And of those, one has to be a capital letter, and a second one needs to be a number or a keyboard symbol. Again, I recommend longer passwords, and I recommend doing all three. So a capital letter, a number, and a keyboard symbol, or a mixture of either. Again, it's a little bit inconvenient, but it certainly helps protect you and helps protect the Docuware data. And again, you can always use the feature to automatically change your password. If you forget it, no big deal. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and put in my new password. Hit the tab key, which I could use my left mouse button, tap down. I'm going to retype it to confirm it. All right. And come down here, move the mouse to where it says change password, and I'm going to select change password, and then we'll give it just a second here to update the password. Okay, and now it's going to take me back to my Docuware screen. So if at this stage I'm through, I'll check the status change form letter, so I'm ready to log out. So again, what we're going to do here is select this drop down arrow, come down here and we'll left click on log out. And it takes me back to my login screen. And from here, I can just close my browser, and kind of go about my business. Again, I appreciate you watching this tutorial. And if you have any questions at all, please be sure to contact Human Resources. Thank you for your time.